Okay, hello and welcome to the next video in this series. In this video, we're going to be talking about how chords are formed. If you saw the last few videos, I was talking about how intervals are constructed. Now we're going to start to be thinking about intervals that form chords. So let's start here. I already have a chord displayed in the treble clef of our grand staff. My question to you is, what interval seems to be the building block here? Because they look like they're equally spaced, don't they? I've attempted, at least, to make them appear equally spaced as much as I can. Just drawing this by hand on the computer. So let's analyze the quantity of the interval between them. So down here, we have our note. Have you figured it out? I hope you have. Going from this line, we consider this is an E. The space below it's a D. The note on this ledger line is a C. Okay, so I have C up to E. Just as we count it down, if we count up from C, 1, space is 2, line is 3. That's a third. The quantity is a third. It's a third of some kind. Let's keep going. E up to this note, which is a G, E, 1. This space is 2. This line is 3. I started counting at 1 again for this example because I'm trying to measure the distance between each note, each pair of notes, I mean to say, the distance between each pair of notes. And that means I have a third down here, and I have a third up here. Now, before we go on to some more nuance about this is the building block of something that is called tertian harmony. And tertian, well, think about the words primary, secondary, tertiary refers to a third, like a third thing, tertiary. So tertian is a way of saying that our harmonies are stacked in thirds. This idea of stacking intervals in thirds is the basis of chords in the Western classical music tradition, and even continues today. And so basically, we could imagine if I move some of these notes around, the question you want to ask yourself as we're getting started in this is, do I have thirds? Notice how when they start on the line, they're all on the line. Yeah. And if it starts in a space and they're stacked in thirds, they're all going to be in spaces because those would be thirds. Okay. I hope that makes sense so far. Now, chords like these can appear in some other forms, which we'll talk about by the end of our video. But for now, we're going to start with this idea that we're stacking things in thirds. Now, and I'm going to take my glasses off real quick. I have to be very clear, abundantly clear here. Intervals, the distance between two notes, have a quality. We talked about that in the previous video, right? Some intervals are perfect, like unisons, fourths, fifths, and octaves. And then the other ones are major or minor. And in some cases, sometimes augmented or diminished. But that's case by case. So chords also have a quality. And the quality of the chord is determined by the arrangement of qualities of intervals. So here, let's go back to this. I shouldn't have deleted that ledger line. What are you going to do? We'll put it back. Okay, no big deal. No big deal. Put the ledger line back. Okay, and then we're going to stack these, and I've tried to make this as even as I can. You have to trust me that those are even. Okay. There. That looks better. That makes me feel happier. Okay. So we said, this was the same chords from earlier, we said that these are thirds. But now we want to determine what is the quality of the chord itself. Let's play these notes. I have my keyboard over here. It's off to the side. I'm sorry. I need to arrange my room better. That's C, E, G. And that is a major chord. Overall, that's a major chord. But a major chord is a series of intervals that are in interplay. So what is C to E? Well, I have our cheat sheet from last time off to the side here. C to E was a major third. Cool. So we know I'm going to write it right there. I'm going to put it in between. We have a major third there between those two notes. But what's E to G? Well, the guide doesn't help us that clearly over here because it's counting it from C. But you know what? I think we can figure this out. I think we can figure it out. How many semitones are between E to G? Well, I already have the math here for you. 7 minus 4 is 3. There's 3 semitones. What is the quality, therefore, of something above something else at 3 semitones? It's a minor third. See how I got there? This wasn't going to tell me immediately. I went E to G. This guy is 7 semitones up from C. This one has 4. I subtracted them. I looked at it that way. Ended up with 3 semitones. You could also look on the keyboard and count as if E was 1. If E was 1, F would be one more half step. That's a minor third. I'm sorry, I misspoke. F would be half step above it. That's a minor second, I mean to say. The F sharp would be the major second. And then one more half step is the G. That's the minor third. So there's 2 different ways for us to look at it. So that's a minor third over here. And behold, that is the construction for all major chords. Period. End of story. Amen, amen, I say to you. That's every major chord. It's a major third, then a minor third. When they're in this position, which is something else we'll talk about later. So, can we make some kind of inferred guess about what a minor quality chord is? Well, hold on. Let me give you the field here. So, chords. Now we have chord quality. There's major. Yeah. Then there's minor. Can you guess what the other ones are? Think about our intervals. Augmented, yes, and then diminished. So, and actually, I wanna be a little more specific here with my graph. So I'm saying chord quality because this video is not going to get into extensions. We'll do that the next time. I'm gonna just say triad. For now, they are still chords. All triads are chords, but not every chord is a triad. Well, anyway, triad, 3. Yeah, 3 notes. 3 notes together, it's a triad. Now, in the Western classical music thing, a triad doesn't just mean any 3 notes. Some people would be inclined to call something like that. I'm sorry, my power came unplugged somehow, inexplicably. How interesting. One moment. I'm leaving this in. I'm not editing this out. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so in the Western classical music milieu, when we talk about a triad, we don't just mean any three notes. Let me be clear here. Any three notes? That's a trichord. Not a Richard. That's a trichord. That's what we would call that. That would be like if you had C, C sharp, and D. Trichord. You could say that C, E, and G has a trichord, but there's a better name for that, which is triad. Because the triad, it insinuates this whole system interconnectivity and relationship amongst the notes in a major key. And then in other keys too, by extension. So, trust me that when I say triad is a loaded term in music theory, this is what I mean. That it carries a lot of history and a lot of contextual information with it. It means things that are stacked in thirds specifically. Okay, so enough of that. What if we move these up to a different pitch level? I'm going to move these up here. This is a different chord. I'm making a different chord right now. And this is E, G, B. Now, I'm going to move these guys out of the way. I'm going to move this one out of the way. Okay. What are the qualities of these thirds? They're already in thirds. We know they're in thirds. They're on, starts on the line, it's on the line. The next line, it's not just like some random line up here. It's always the consecutive. It's the next line. Okay, definitely in thirds. So let's analyze them. We have E to G and then G to B. Well, E to G. Wait a minute. We said that one earlier. E to G. So E up to F is one semitone, and then F to G is a whole step. That's two semitones. In total, three semitones, which is the minor third. The minor third. There's a minor third between them. G to B. Look over here. Well, this is a little funny because it's in relation to C. Could I retype this to have different letters? Sure. Sure I could. You know what? Let's do it. Watch this. Watch this. If I put E down in this position, oh, I'm trying to align it the best way I can. Can it be done? Yeah, almost. It almost works. It's almost in alignment, right? And look at that. Now it's up from E. F is the minor second. F sharp is the major second, right? Okay. So G to B. Think about this way. It's G to A is a whole step, and then A to B is another half step. Two whole steps. That's four semitones. That interval is the major third. And this chord sounds like this. It's minor in its quality. And that's because we have a minor third and then a major third. Amen, amen, I say to you, every minor chord has this construction. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what key we're in. If it's a minor triad, it has a minor third and then a major third. If it's in this position, which I haven't called it by name yet because I don't want to further complicate matters just yet. So more on that by the end of this one. So, by the way, so that I'm being clear, because I have the grand staff here, what if I displace some of these notes by an octave? Just an octave. I'm going to move this one down an octave. This is still going to be an E, but now Now it's an E in bass clef. Is it still a minor triad? Yes, let's hear it. Let's hear that exact thing. It's dark in here. Still sounds pretty minor to me. Yep. But you might say, Dr. Wellesley, what gives? Because that's a compound interval now. That's a tenth. That's a minor tenth between the E here and the G. I know. But if you collapse the octave, right, it's still a minor third. So there's an idea starting to creep into our theory that's forming here. Something about octave equivalency. The idea that when I drop that E down, it's still functioning as the root of the chord. And even though there's a tenth, it's a minor third plus an octave, it's still functionally, in terms of the chord's quality, a minor third. It would be pedantic and missing the point to be like, well, this is actually a minor tenth, and then really? No. It's just a minor third, even if it's dropped by the octave. That would still be true if we were to raise, to draw the ledger line and bring the ledger line over. Got the Heath ledger line over here. The Heath ledger line. That's a B now. That's still an E minor triad. Because those are still thirds, even though they're compound. Okay, fun times. Let me write this over here. I hope you're taking notes. You can screenshot this. You can save this. You can do whatever you want. So major is the idea. So from the root, I have a major third, then a minor third. Minor, from the root, I have a minor third, then a major third. Now, there's one more thing I got to talk about here that I didn't mention earlier. I'm going to return this to its original positioning so we can clearly see. We talked about the internal thirds, but what about the distance between the bottom note and the top note? That was another consideration that we lighted over until now, because it's going to be important for the next ones. What is that interval? Well, if we go over here, remember that time I moved it? Remember when I moved it so that E is the first one? It's not perfect, but it kind of lines up. It kind of, the B is the B. It's a perfect fifth. Because E to B, right, is 7 semitones. So if I put that out here, P5, and I could, let's be thorough. Oh wait, I can draw the curvy dog. We're gonna use the curvy dog for this one. Curvy dog. I like it. I like the curvy dog. Yeah, curvy dog. Okay? Hope that makes sense. That was true for the major triad as well. Hey, before I move on, the next two, check it out. I can change this minor triad into a major triad by changing one note. Not changing the letter it is, but adding something to it. What if I raise this middle note by adding a sharp? Make it a little bigger. Add a sharp. Oh, I added a sharp. Wait a minute, but E to G sharp isn't a minor third anymore. I know. It got bumped up. It got promoted. It's a major third now. 2 whole steps, E to F sharp and then F sharp to G sharp. Got bumped up. How cool is that? Okay, pretty nifty. But then consider that because the G got bumped up to G sharp, now G to B got a little bit smaller. It's like the E to G, we raised the roof and that like smushed the other apartment above it. That's one way to think about it. So now, instead of a major third, it's a minor third. It's still a perfect fifth on the outsides from here to there. That didn't get changed. Just that middle note got adjusted. Now this is E major. I hope that makes sense so far. Now, I'm going to return it to its minor form. Boop. And then I'm going to rearrange these so they're still true. Okay, they're still true. It's true right now. Let's get into the diminished. Right now I have my minor triad. How do I know? Minor third, then a major third. But what if somehow this was also a minor third? We would have to have another piece of information. And that would be a flat. A flat. Flat. And we'll pretend that's a flat. We're going to pretend. Imagination. Okay. It's now B flat. Wait a minute. Okay, well, that's pretty cool. Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me break it down. Still a minor third, E to G. No problem. We already said that. We already know that. But now, the major third that existed between G and B natural, that's without the flat. Well, now it's not B natural, it's B flat. It's been lowered a half step. That major third became a minor third. Now, I can hear somebody watching this saying this, yeah, that's not a perfect fifth anymore either. The E to B flat. You're absolutely right. It's a perfect fifth that's been smushed. It becomes a diminished fifth. I put a little lowercase d, D5. Now our graph is correct. That we have a diminished fifth on the outside, which also means a minor third between those voices. This is a diminished triad. So let me make some space here. From the root is our bottom note right now. Minor third, minor third. And let me add outer P5. Oops. No bracket. We're not coding right now. Outer P5. The minor third also had an outer P5. Cool. Outer diminished fifth. Okay. Can you guess what the augmented triad will be? Remember how we had 2 minor thirds? What if we had 2 major thirds? Okay, let's do it. So right now, E to G is a minor third. Let's make it major. We're not going to change notes. We're not going to go up to A and then flat. No. We just need to sharp it. Just raise it. So I need to stop deleting my accidentals. What is happening? What is happening around here? Okay, so I have G sharp. Cool. And I need another major third. Because G sharp to B is not a major third. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm thinking ahead of myself, sorry. G sharp to B is not a major third. That's true. It is a minor third. So how do we make G sharp to be something? Well, we could sharp the B. Now, wait a minute. This is an important step right here for us to think about very carefully. I'm going to go here. And I put the sharp there. Cool. Nice. I know what you might be thinking. You might be looking at the chart above and saying, what gives? I don't see a B sharp up there. That Dr. Welty, you made it very explicit that I didn't really say there wasn't a B sharp, but B proceeds to C as the next half step above it. Well, now in this case, B sharp will sound like C, and on a keyboard will play the note that looks like C. But it is a B sharp in terms of its function because it's the fifth, the perfect fifth, then augmented above E. I mentioned this in the interval video when I said, the example was whether it was an augmented fifth or a minor sixth. That depends on the context. That's an E to a B sharp. That is an augmented fifth. If it was written hypothetically as a C, it would have a different function. Now something else is happening. If you kind of already know this and you're watching this for review, what's happening now? Well, augmented chords, this is a little bit beyond our video for today, but I'll say this, that augmented chords, because they're major thirds and they're symmetrical, their construction, they repeat at a certain interval. That if I were to raise these notes up here, like so, as a G sharp, now they're in thirds. We kept the E in the G sharp, and B sharp is enharmonic to C. There's a similarity here, that C augmented is like E augmented. Because they're symmetrical in their construction, that means that they repeat themselves. They repeat themselves. They repeat themselves. That's a story for another day, though, just to plant that idea in your mind. If we're building an augmented chord off of E, it is most correct to say E, G sharp, B sharp. Most correct. And then we have here, I'll just be thorough. We have a major third, and then we have another major third, and then we have an augmented fifth on the outside. Yep. So let me write this in here. Augmented from the root. We have a major third, then a major third. Outer augmented fifth. Okay. I hope that makes sense. That's actually all I want to talk about in this video to keep it shorter than longer. Next video, we'll talk about inversions, and then we'll get into extensions and chord names. But I hope that this was informative and helpful for you. And you can always leave me a question in the comments, or if you're in the course, you have my email and you can send me an email. And that's all I have to say about triads triadic harmony right now in this video. All right, have a good evening or whatever time of day it is where you're watching this.